This episode of the Super Hype Gaming Podcast is brought to you by Jupiter Jacks. That's right, hands-free podcasting is finally coming to a vehicle near you. Instead of listening to your music, you can listen to me. Jupiter Jacks are only $10 each, but for a limited time only, we'll sell you 15 Jupiter Jacks for the price of one. We've got whole warehouses full of this shit, and we really want to get rid of it, so please call now. Hey guys, my name is Michael Flanagan, and this is the Super Hype Gaming Podcast, Episode 3. Episode 3. I think 3-year-olds can walk, right? I'm not really familiar with the whole progression of babies and stuff. I try to keep away from anyone under the age of 50. But I think we're finally able to walk here at episode 3. So I got a whole 2 pages of shit to talk about. I don't know how much we're gonna get into some of this stuff, but there was some stuff that happened this week. There's some stuff that happened with me this week as well. I finally finished all of Hannibal. I finally watched the finale of season 3. And it ended pretty good. It's funny because the show was actually canceled after they had finished filming the final episode. And so they filmed that, and they kind of had plans for season 4. But the finale really does work as a finale. And yeah, I think it was good. I think season 3 definitely was still a B, which is good. It's just that seasons 1 and 2 were triple S. But I think the first half of season 3 was definitely weaker than the second half. After the anime time skip, it definitely got a little better. But Hannibal is definitely a show I would recommend to anyone that's into that kind of fucked up, just interesting stuff. It's really, really good. Some truly brilliant acting there. I think Mads Mikkelsen is definitely one of my top 5 actors of all time. He just absolutely crushes it in that show. So yeah, done with that. Finally done with that. I also took Dusty to the vet. So I take her to the vet. She has a bi-yearly kind of checkup that I usually do with her. And one of the things that she gets is a butt shave, because if you don't know, my cat Dusty, she's a long-haired cat, and long-haired cats, they get a lot of hair up in their asshole. They got a lot of hair up in there, and it can create problems. If it's matting and stuff back there, it can create problems when they're trying to take a shit. So I have to take her twice a year to do a nice. They call it the sanitary groom, and I always forget what it's called. So I always call the vet, and I'm like, hey, you guys do the butt shave, right? And they're like, oh, you mean the sanitary groom? I'm like, yeah, I guess that sounds a little more professional. It's a little more professional than the fucking butt shave, but it's a butt shave. Who are we kidding? So she got the butt shave, and she also, and I was kind of expecting that, I was kind of expecting this, but she needs to start a slight diet. She's not super overweight, so she's currently 12 pounds, and the ideal is somewhere in the 9 or 10 pound range. So she's got to lose 2 pounds. It's not a big deal. They were talking about just changing her diet, which I'm gonna try. There's some food where you can get where it's lower calories, which is the biggest thing. But it also has some thing where it has some kind of vitamin or something that makes them feel more full for longer, which is definitely Dusty's problem. Dusty likes to eat all day long. She wakes up and she eats a whole can of food, and then 10 minutes later she's like, dude, I haven't eaten in 6 years. Can you feed me or what? So yeah, she's gonna do a slight diet, but other than that, she's perfectly healthy. Excuse me. I just ate Taco Bell not even 10 minutes ago. Just had, of course, a number 10. So I'm still a little congested from eating Taco Bell. Which it's a great time to start recording a podcast. But yeah, that, and then also I wanted to talk about. So I had tickets. For there's a comedian called Dimitri Martin who is coming to Atlanta in November, and I had tickets for this. And unfortunately, he announced on Twitter that he is canceling his fall tour. Seems like he is kind of in a rut, kind of maybe possibly a little depressed or just a little overwhelmed and overworked. Which I totally understand. I totally understand. It's a shame. I was really looking forward to seeing him. He's a really brilliant comedian. But yeah, Dimitri Martin, he's a really cool guy. And I wish him the best. I hope he gets better, and I hope he comes back to Atlanta because I would really enjoy seeing him. And I think that's it for me. You always want to get like a little bit of a personal rant in before the podcast. I feel like that's kind of standard, right? But this week we have the biggest thing that happened is Sony had their State of Play on Tuesday, September the 24th. Sony had their State of Play. It's basically a Nintendo Direct. It's actually structured. It's surprising. It's like literally. Like the rhythm and the beats and everything are verbatim for a Nintendo Direct. They've got like the list of like different like panels and stuff of stuff they're going to talk about, and it goes from like panel to panel, and like the timing and the presentation. It's one for one for a fucking Nintendo Direct. It's insane. But yeah, there's a whole slew of things. Here. I've got this fucking blog post up, but like, come on, dude. It's not a very good fucking blog post. I've got everything written down, but there's some stuff that I don't. Okay, so the first thing that they started with was a new kind of indie game called Humanity, and this is coming in 2020, and it looks like. It's hard to tell what it looks like. It's got like, let's see. Let's watch the trailer again. So it's coming to PS4, it's coming to PSVR as well. And it's got basically like hordes of humans in like different colored shirts and stuff. And it seems like there's some maybe some puzzle elements. It's definitely very like strange. Definitely very out there. Yeah, there's like hordes of like blue humans and red humans, and they're like lightsaber battling each other. It's insane. So yeah, I feel like this is a game where they're like, hey, we figured out how to have like 1 million character models on screen, and so we're just gonna like set up a bunch of different scenarios. I feel like based on this trailer, it looks like there's not like one specific kind of key like gameplay mechanic. It looks like there's kind of like a bunch of different things that they're trying. So yeah, that's cool. Not much else to say about that. There's no like release date or price or anything. But that could be cool. Could be a cool stream game. Who knows? And then after that, we had a new Call of Duty Modern Warfare story trailer, and let me say, the faces look good. There's some really good faces in this game. Not that like Call of Duty has ever looked bad. I mean, Call of Duty always looks good, visually. But the faces are like whoa, these faces are really good. These faces are really, really good. Some really, really nice character models in this game. So yeah, it's hard to say. I play Call of Duty games. I play like every fourth Call of Duty game. I feel like if you wait like every fourth one and like just get your time in, then like you can be satisfied. People always kind of shit on these games, but I think their quality like every time. They do pump them out year after year, but they have 3 developers working on the games, and I think they are quality each time. The only thing I'm weirded about this is I hate when games just use the same title as a previous game. It's like Call of Duty Modern Warfare already exists. It's a PS3 360 game. It's the same thing with like God of War. God of War already exists. Star Wars Battlefront already exists. Um, and yeah, it's weird. Like it's like a weird reboot of the original Modern Warfare. It's like doing the same kind of story. It's got like some of the same characters, but like they're in different. It's like it's the same but different, which is very strange. I mean, Modern Warfare is not that old of a game, but I think they just wanted to make, I think they wanted to make something comfy for fans. I think they wanted to make a Call of Duty game this year that was just like not like too out there, like kind of Black Ops has turned into. I think they just wanted to make like a nice, comfy Modern Warfare game, which I can't blame them. But yeah, just a story trailer. I mean, it looks really good. The character models and the faces and the facial animations look really, really good. So yeah, that's that. And then after that, we've got Watam. So this is from the creator of Katamari Damacy, who I forget his name. Katamari and Nobi Nobi Boy. And this is definitely in like that weird... This is definitely would be a fun stream game. I might play this on stream when it comes out. And this is coming out December 19th, 2019. So the premise for this game seems to be like a bunch of objects in like a... I mean, it's got like this happy vibe, but I feel like there's definitely like a dark undertone to this world. So it's like a bunch of objects. There's like, there's like a mouth. There's a bunch of fruit. There's like a toilet. There's some flowers. And they all have like faces and arms and stuff. There's a fork. And it seems like all these objects are like, connecting with each other and rediscovering the world and stuff, like after some kind of post-apocalypse. Like all the humans are dead. And it's just these weird objects with faces and arms. There's like a golden poop. There's a giant duck. Not really sure, like, it's hard to tell, like, what the actual, like, gameplay hook is here, in this trailer, but I think this is a game that's been, like, kind of in development and has been teased for a long, long time, so it's nice to kind of finally get a release date for that. I might play that on stream. It looks kind of crazy and goofy. It looks like a perfect stream game, because it's, like, I feel like this is a game that you can play, like, one time and then be done with, I feel like we could play this game for like one night and it would be okay. And then moving along, we've got the next game, which is Arise, a simple story. A simple story. Not too complex. Just a simple story. So this is a very like this is published by Techland. This is a very Journey-esque looking game. If you've played Journey, if you've played what is that game called? What is the water version of Journey? Let me look this up. Water version of Journey. This is great podcasting we're doing. I'm always bad at God damn it. I really cannot remember the name of this game. I guess we're just gonna skip it. I'll think of it later. Submerged. I think it's called Submerged, right? Is that it? Submerged? There's like Subnautica, but that's a totally different game. No, Submerged is a totally different game too. Let me try Water Journey game. This is truly like the best podcasting that you could ever get. Water Journey game. Nothing comes up. I played this game. But yeah, anyways, it's basically like, you've got your little character and you're kind of going through this very pretty world and kind of getting to a destination. Arise here seems to have like a kind of like a Nordic vibe to it. There's it starts with like a funeral pyre. It seems like from this trailer, it seems like your main character has died and they're lighting your funeral pyre. And then maybe you have like some journey to Valhalla. But yeah, this seems cool. Hopefully, I always want games like this to be like 4 hours long. I feel like that's kind of the perfect length for some of these games. Like 4 hours, make it like $15 or something. But man, I really cannot find the name of this fucking game. That's okay though. That's okay. And then they also showed off. They had like a whole VR montage, which they started with. They started with LA Noire, the VR cases, which I think came out to PC already. It's probably on like Oculus or some shit. But yeah, that looks interesting. They had a bunch of PSVR games. I haven't tried VR yet, so I really can't commentate on any of these things. Some of these games look cooler than like some of the early PSVR games that I've seen. But you know, it's whatever. VR seems cool. It's just not there yet, and it will be eventually, but it's just not there yet. And then we also got a medieval demo. So they released a little short medieval demo. I think it's just like the first 2 levels for the medieval remake. And this game is bizarre to me because they announced it with like really no trailer. Sean Layden had his stupid shirt on, but they really had like nothing when they first announced it. And that was like 2 years ago, because that was announced at the PSX that like wasn't actually a PSX. It was a PSX where they didn't have a showcase. They just had a bunch of interviews with people. And then the next year they didn't have a PSX. So yeah, it's interesting. You know, Medieval is like it's definitely like a cult classic game. It's not like Crash or Spyro where people just love that game. Even though Crash is like not that good. Even though Crash is not that good. Slight shade. I mean, Crash 3 is good, but Crash 1 and 2, nah. But yeah, like it's like it's in that it's like just under Crash and Spyro. It's like Crash and Spyro are like A's, and Medieval is like a C. And I don't think it's. I mean, I haven't played it, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad game. But like they're not really hyping this game up because it's like I don't know. I think they're releasing it in October, so that's good. They'll get like the October spooky people in. But I don't know. Medieval's coming out, I guess. And then we also got an announcement for Civ 6. Civ 6 is finally coming to PS4. This came to Switch earlier this year, so it's kind of funny that it came to Switch before it came to PS4. And I assume it's coming like to Xbox and stuff too. But yeah, that's coming November 22nd. I love Civ. I love Civ 4 specifically. And Civ 5 is very, very good too. I haven't played Civ 6. I'm not really a fan of like the art style, the new art style that they've gone for. I think Civ 4 and Civ 5 look really good, and Civ 6 looks just kind of weird. But I'm pretty sure it's gotten like good reviews and stuff. I don't know. So next off, we had another trailer for Death Stranding, which I again did not watch. I'm on total media blackout for that game. Total media blackout. I'm not watching anything. I just finished Metal Gear Solid, and like that has me just hyped through the roof for this game. I feel like, people are kind of shitting on this game. They're like, man, this game looks boring. It looks fucking stupid. It looks like it's just got like nothing going on. And I'm totally in for that. I'm totally in for a game that just like doesn't do anything that any other game does. I think that's really exciting. Even if it's like kind of boring, I'm totally in for like a boring kind of journey through this weird world. But they had a new trailer, and they also announced a limited edition PS4 Pro. It's kind of interesting. It's like, the PS4 Pro has like the 3 layers. It's like a sandwich looking kind of thing, the console. And so like the first layer is white, second layer is black, and the third layer is white again. And it's got like the handprints. If you watched like the first couple trailers, it's got like the weird kind of baby handprints with the strands coming off of it. And then they've also got like UTI piss yellow controller going with it. I think the controller is meant to match like the weird container that he keeps the baby in. It's got that same kind of yellow shade. But I'm not a fan of like the clear controllers where you can see like the inside and shit. I think it looks so tacky. It reminds me of like people have nostalgia for those controllers, but those controllers to me were always like the shitty like extra controllers that you gave to your friend when they came over. It's like, here's my like cheap, like dumb looking controller. You can play with that one. And then you would go to someone's friend's house and you would get that controller and you'd be like, well, God damn it, why do I have to play with this ugly ass controller? But yeah, Death Stranding, that's coming out in November. I'm on media blackout, so I didn't watch the trailer for it, but I'm sure it's weird and I'm sure it's exciting. Then we got a new trailer for After Party. So this is a game. I thought this was a game that was out already, and maybe it's out on like PC and stuff. But yeah, this is from the developers of Oxenfree, which I played Oxenfree and I thought it was good. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think people kind of hyped that game up a little too much. I thought it was okay. But this game, After Party, is about two teens who, like, the premise of this is right up my alley. It's two teenagers who are in, like, hell, and they need to outdrink. Well, maybe they're not teenagers then. They might be, like, young adults, because they have to outdrink a bunch of demons. I guess they wouldn't make a game about teenagers, like, drinking alcohol and shit. So yeah, probably more like young adults, but they are in hell and they need to outdrink a bunch of demons at like bars and shit. And Satan is there. Satan's like, "Hey, welcome to my bougie house." So it seems like a bunch of mini games. I know that this game has been like, I thought this game was out, but maybe it's just been like in development for a while and they've shown it off a bunch. But yeah, this looks really cool. It's coming out October 29th. October 29th. So right at the end of October. So who knows if I'll get it in there for Spooky Hype Gaming. But yeah, this seems like a cool little a cool little game. Again, games like this, like hopefully this game is like 4 to 6 hours long. That would be that's like the sweet spot. Because games like this, when they go on for too long, it's just too much. I just want your game to end after a while, Okay, and then we got our penultimate announcements for the State of Play. So they announced the October PS Plus games. And the first game is MLB The Show 19. And I saw a lot of people kind of like, ooh, MLB, it's a sports game. I'm not like huge on baseball. But I did play MLB The Show, I think 2017 or 2016, and these games are really, really good. So I think it's Sony San Diego, which is a first-party studio. It's owned by Sony, and they make, the MLB The Show games. They have, Sony has the exclusive rights to make MLB games. So this is the only Major League Baseball game that you can get on any console, with these Major League teams. And these games are really, really good. These games, Sony, their first-party studios put out quality games. And MLB The Show, even though it's a sports game, even though there's kind of this weird stigma around sports video games, MLB The Show has that, excellence that you would expect from a Sony first-party exclusive game. It's got, the career mode has RPG mechanics where you're like leveling up your character, and you have dialogue options. You're like talking to your agent, and you can be like super nice to your agent. You can be like a dick to your agent, and you like progress. You start in like a local team, and then you progress to like the minor leagues, and then you progress to the major leagues. I think it's really cool. I think even if you're not that into baseball, I think you could probably have a good time with it. Like I don't watch baseball hardly ever, and I played like maybe 20 hours of MLB The Show 2017, and just had fun with it just because it's got some good mechanics and stuff. Looks really good, obviously. And the second game is The Last of Us Remastered, which is it's good. I feel like everyone who has a PS4 probably has The Last of Us by now. I think several years ago, it was like bundled in with pretty much every PS4. Like you'd go to a fucking Walmart and it'd be like, hey, here's a PS4 and it's got the fucking Last of Us digital code in there. And it's been on sale several times, but it's appropriate considering the next announcement. But yeah, The Last of Us, that's in there. I think those are two pretty solid games for October, for the PS Plus offerings. And then we finally get to our last announcement, or our last kind of thing that Sony showed off in the State of Play, and that is Pup Snuffers Part 2. Pup Snuffers Part 2 is coming out this February. So Last of Us Part 2, they had a pretty good trailer, actually. Pretty good trailer. I like The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is very good. I think there's a little bit of a hyperbole around The Last of Us. People like hype it up as the greatest game ever, and I think it's very good. I'm excited for The Last of Us Part 2. I think the characters are really good. The performances specifically, from Troy Baker, from Ashley Johnson are very, very good. Like top, best in the biz. The music is phenomenal. The music is very, very good, and I think there's good vibes. Some of my problems with the first Last of Us had mostly to do with like the gameplay and stuff. A lot of the enemy encounters feel the same, and especially like when you do like a grab attack from behind, like a sneak attack, and you're like choking a dude out. It's like the same animation every single time. There's no like variation there. The guy that you're choking out will like reach back for the back of your head every single time. So yeah, I think the gameplay definitely is serviceable in The Last of Us. The first Last of Us. But they showed off some new gameplay stuff here, and I think everything they showed off looks really good actually. So they showed off dogs, they showed off puppers, and dogs will now kind of hang out with some of these groups that you're attacking. And once they get your scent, like that's it. Like they're gonna track you and follow you. And when you do the kind of like detective mode, vision thing where you can see all the enemies and stuff, you can see like the trail of the dog and like what trail the dog's gonna follow to get to you. So that seems really kind of interesting. I definitely think that the thing that The Last of Us needs most of all is interesting and varied combat encounters. I always go back to Resident Evil 4 and how Resident Evil 4 has some of the best combat encounters, of all time for all like third-person shooter games, because almost every enemy encounter in Resident Evil 4 is varied in some way, and there's like some interesting gimmick. Every room that you go into is different from the last. There's like the room in Resident Evil 4. There's a room you walk into and there's like a giant turret in the middle of the room. There's the one where like Ashley has to like stand up on the switches or stand up on the platforms and turn the switches, and you have to like protect her and shoot the enemies before they get to her. There's the room where like there's a bunch of guys with bazookas and shit. I think Resident Evil 4 has some very varied, very unique and varied combat encounters, and I think that's something that The Last of Us needs. A lot of the combat encounters in the first Last of Us are definitely just like you get to an area and there's a bunch of dudes, and you gotta sneak around, kill all the dudes, and then move on. And it's either dudes, this time it's dudes, next time it's zombies, and it gets a little repetitive. So if they can introduce some of these things, dogs and stuff like that, to change up the combat, I think it will be good. They also introduced like a couple of small mechanics which I think are really, really smart. So you can now go fully prone in the game. Like MGS5 style prone, where you're just laying on the floor, you're crawling through like tall grass and shit. And I think that's really good. It seems like such a small thing, but I think that adds like, it has the potential to add so much. Where, you could lay like under a table or something and hide from people. I know like in one of the E3 trailers from a couple years ago, they showed you like laying under like a truck. So that's really cool. What else did they show off? They showed off going prone. Oh, so there's also a dedicated dodge button, and that's really interesting. There's now a dedicated dodge button, which I think is only going to come into play for like, close range combat stuff. I don't think it's going to help you in like a gunfight. And most of the game is gunfights, if I recall. There's some parts where you're doing some close hand combats. You got like a bat and shit like that. But I think those are two really good things to add to the game. Obviously the game looks visually very, very good. Some interesting story stuff, obviously. Some interesting story stuff that they're teasing. They showed off Joel. Joel surprisingly looks younger, I think, than he did in The Last of Us Part 1. And I think that's just, that's what happens when you have like a more highly detailed character model. Sometimes you can make your character look, when you add more character detail to your character, sometimes they can look younger because they look better. Joel looks better than he did in the first Last of Us, but I think his design is like a little different too. I think Joel's like most striking feature is his eyes. I think his eyes, in the first Last of Us, are the thing that really make him stand out as a character. The way his eyes are shaped and the way they look. And I think they look a little different in Part 2, just based on what we've seen so far. But yeah, The Last of Us Part 2, so that's coming out February 21st, 2020, which is pretty soon. It's like, what, five months away or something like that. And I think that's a perfect time for that game. It's going to come out well before like the next generation and all that stuff starts to kick off. But yeah, that's exciting. So unfortunately though, the kind of bad news that goes along with this, the bad news is that Neil Druckmann, the director of The Last of Us Part 2, announced that killing the dogs is totally optional. And I think this is totally bullshit. I think killing those dogs should be completely required now. So Naughty Dog announced that there will be no multiplayer for The Last of Us Part 2. So this all gets kind of weird because I believe it was a few months ago. Naughty Dog tweeted out, they're like, we're happy to confirm that Factions, which is the name of the multiplayer that was included with The Last of Us Part 1. They said, Factions is confirmed. We're confirming that Factions is coming back to The Last of Us Part 2. And then after the State of Play and after the media event that went down after the State of Play, so several media sites went out to play The Last of Us Part 2, and they have impressions. I was not, obviously invited, which is complete blasphemy. But if you want to see impressions, like I'd highly recommend going to like Easy Allies. I think they have a really good impressions of what they saw and what they played at that media event. But yeah, they announced that there will be no multiplayer. They said, quote, "I know we had kind of announced it, but as the game has developed, it became so ambitious, so grand in scope, and so intricate in its complexity that it really required the full focus of the studio to deliver the single-player experience," end quote. So Factions, if you don't know, in the first Last of Us was actually a really good multiplayer component, which was at the time kind of surprising because it came around at a time where like every single player game was adding just this ridiculous like not needed multiplayer mode. Like one of the first things that comes to mind is the multiplayer in God of War Ascension, which I think was also pretty decent, but it's just like, why does God of War need a multiplayer mode? But Factions was actually really cool. It was very kind of slow paced. It was almost like, I'll probably get blasted for this, but it was almost like a predecessor to your PUBGs and your Fortnites, where you had like a small squad of 4, and the enemy team had a small squad of 4, and you had this big map. The idea would be that you stick together with your group because you were more dangerous as a full group than if you're just like running around Call of Duty style and trying to shoot people. But you'd shoot enemies, and then you could down them, and then you'd go and finish them off. And there were several modes. The modes that I remember playing was like the what was it called? Like last man standing. So like, you have one life. It's not like you're respawning a million times per match. There'd be like several rounds, and whichever team has eliminates the other team first wins that round. And you would pick up, like, after you killed an enemy, you would pick up like cans of food. This was like a really weird part of it. You'd pick up cans of food, and then when you like exited the match and went back to your main menu, you had this like camp, and it wasn't really a camp. It was represented by like a screen with a bunch of like blue and yellow and white dots. And so you had like survivors, and every time you got more food, you would earn more survivors. And like your survivors would get sick, so like healthy survivors would be represented by like a blue dot, and like sick survivors would be represented by like a yellow dot or some shit. And so like if you finished a match and you like didn't collect enough cans of food, like people would start dying off, people would start getting sick. And like it went on for like I don't know, it was very strange, but it was very interesting, and it was very different from any other kind of multiplayer experience at the time. And people highly regarded it and really loved that mode. But yeah, they've announced that they're not going to have it for Last of Us Part 2. It's strange that because this article here, this is on Polygon. Somebody at Naughty Dog mentioned, quote, "Attentive readers will have noticed our job postings," end quote. Which is referencing, they had an open kind of call for like, we want multiplayer people to come to our company. We're hiring some multiplayer focused employees. And then they've also said like, hey, maybe it'll come like as its own thing later, which is weird. I don't know if it would be strange if they're like, hey, we're making a multiplayer Last of Us game, and its factions, and we're gonna sell it to you for $60. I think that would be weird. Maybe it'll come as like an expansion pass or something. They did do a story DLC for The Last of Us Part 1, Left Behind, which was pretty good. So maybe they'll have like a season pass. And they'll release like a single player DLC thing, and then they'll also have like a multiplayer thing that comes in that season pass or something. I don't know. But if you're looking forward to factions, then I'm sorry to tell you that it simply won't be there. But yeah, that was the last of Sony's State of Play, and it was funny too, like, because it is like a Nintendo Direct, and so it has like the very boisterous like, and here's our next game. So when they got to The Last of Us, it was like, and here's a highly, anticipated game that you're waiting for from a big Sony developer. So it's very like boisterous, like excited voice, and then cut to like, like just the most brutal shit ever. Like implied rape happens in that trailer. But yeah. I think The Last of Us Part 2 had a very good trailer in that State of Play, so it's exciting. I'll definitely play the game. I think the games are worth playing. I kind of downed on it earlier. I kind of made it seem like maybe I don't like those games, but I like them. I think they're good. They're just not like my favorite. I definitely don't think they're like the best games of all time. But that's just my shitty opinion, so who cares? And so immediately following the State of Play, Xbox also had their version of a Nintendo Direct, which is called Inside Xbox. Inside Xbox, and I don't think like hardly anything was announced here. Like, I'm looking at the list. They announced some stuff for like Game Pass PC. They've got some games on there. Children of Morta trailer, Code Vein trailer, which just came out, so it's like, who, what? I don't know. Apparently there was a deep dive for the Outer Worlds. I feel like the Outer Worlds is a game that doesn't need a deep dive at this point. You know, anyone that's interested in this game is probably going to get it. They had a bunch of interviews. I know people were complaining afterwards, like the interviews just totally kill the vibe of any kind of presentation. You know, when you have announcements and stuff, and you're showing stuff off, and then you like take a break to interview someone. I think interviews are great. I love watching interviews, but I think like a media event is not the place to do interviews. You know, post the interviews like on your YouTube channel, and like I promise you, I will watch those interviews. The people that want to watch those interviews, that are interested in that, will go and watch those. But don't put it in your media event. It kills the pacing, it kills the vibe. But yeah, like I'm looking through the list, and there's really not anything worth talking about at this Inside Xbox event. So I guess we can wrap that story up. And then after that, I've got more funsies, more fun stories from Fallout 76, which is just the gift that keeps on giving. Truly, Fallout 76. So there were already problems with the collector's edition of Fallout 76 came with a bunch of tchotchkes and a bunch of junk. And there were already problems because, you know, it was supposed to come with this canvas bag, this canvas, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a gym bag almost. And it was clearly made of like the picture that they showed off when they were selling it was completely different from what customers actually got. You know, customers actually got this, like, you know, fucking plastic garbage bag basically. And so everyone complained about it, and eventually they reshipped those bags. They found like a different distributor and remade the bags, and, you know, gave everyone basically what they were supposed to get, what they paid for. But now we've got, so it also came with a helmet for the vault armors. What are these called? What are these fucking called? The power armor. Yeah, they've got like the power armor helmets, and apparently they're being recalled because it contains dangerous levels of mold, which is just like, I don't understand how something could be so bad. Like, not only is the game just kind of busted and kind of like not what people really want from a Fallout game, and I know there's people, I know it has improved over time, and I know there's people that do like Fallout 76. However, I'm just waiting, like, eventually one of these fucking collector's editions is gonna kill someone. Someone is gonna die from mold, and there's gonna be a story on fucking Kotaku that's like, Fallout 76 has finally killed someone. IRL. So yeah, they're being recalled, and you know, who knows if they're gonna ship out better ones, but it says around 20,000 of these were made, so I don't know, man. It's a little ridiculous. You'd think like they obviously went like just super cheap for this collector's edition, which is like, people have been making collector's editions for video games for decades, and this one, for some reason, just everything in it is just busted and obviously like dangerous as well to the people that bought that. But that's fun. Hopefully next week there'll be some more Fallout 76 bullshit that happens. Maybe like I forget what else came with that. Oh, I remember afterwards they announced too that they were selling like Fallout themed like Nuka-Cola and like Fallout themed like alcohol, like vodka and stuff. I forget the brand of alcohol in the Fallout universe, but I'm pretty sure that eventually one of those is gonna fucking kill someone too. Yeah, after that, I've got, there was a new Jedi Fallen Order trailer, this was a really weird trailer. This came out just at a random time. It wasn't even in, like, Inside Xbox. It wasn't in the PlayStation State of Play. Just this random trailer, and, like, I don't really know what this trailer was trying to show me. It showed some new stuff. It showed some cool, like, monsters and stuff. Seems like some boss battles, which seemed pretty cool. I think some of those monster designs actually looked pretty cool. But this game looks like it's gonna be like good. That's kind of how I feel about it. For one, like I'm so sick of Star Wars games that are like, hey, here's this secret Jedi that you didn't know about. It's Cal. He's a Jedi that didn't die, and he was out there doing stuff, and just like like Rebels is like this, the TV show Rebels, where there's a secret Jedi. They're just running around doing stuff. Kyle Katarn was kind of like that. That stuff like isn't canon anymore, but there was a couple of the PSP like Battlefront games were like that too, where there were like secret Jedi. The Force Unleashed games had that, where you weren't playing technically as a secret Jedi, but you were going off and killing secret Jedi. It's like, oh, there's all these Jedi that are totally out there when Luke was supposed to be like the only Jedi left. And I don't know, like I understand that like it's been a while since we've had a Star Wars game that's like focused on lightsabers and stuff, and that's kind of what people want. But I'm so sick of lightsabers. I love Star Wars, but I'm so fucking sick of lightsabers. I don't want to see more like lightsabers. That's why I'm very interested in the show The Mandalorian, which is coming to Disney Plus, because it's that part of Star Wars that's not focused on fucking lightsabers and shit, and that's the part of Star Wars that we need more of. But yeah, the game, it has some Metroidvania elements to it, where it seems like you're kind of exploring new areas and different planets and stuff, and you'll kind of unlock new abilities. I think they showed off some of that in the story. They showed off some of the more like cutscenes and stuff, which I don't know. At this point, it's kind of random to show some of that stuff off in like a 2-minute trailer. But yeah, and the gameplay too looks okay. I think Respawn makes great games. Titanfall and Titanfall 2 are great first-person shooters. So we'll see how they do with a third-person action game. But yeah, I mean, just the vibe from this game, I feel like it's gonna be okay. The story is not gonna do, because when you have a story like this too, it's so restricting to have a story where you're set between these two time periods, and you can't really do anything dramatic because like it's so focused on the Empire, and it's so focused on the Jedi. It's like you can't really do anything dramatic because it'll fuck up with the movies and stuff. Whereas like if you went just somewhere else and you were like just some like crime boss or something, or just some like rogue, rebel criminal or something like that, I feel like they could do a lot more. They could have a more personal story. But I don't know. It's like Cal. Cal is like, he's not gonna make it. Cal is not a character that's gonna stick around. Like he's a fucking Jedi. He's not gonna be around for the end of that game. So I don't know. I don't know how that is. And the next up here we've got, so Rockstar has announced, or I think they said in an interview. Yeah, in an interview with VG 24/7, they said that they have no current plans to release DLC for Red Dead Redemption 2's single player mode, and they're just gonna focus on stuff for Red Dead Online, which I think is fine. Obviously, like Undead Nightmare for Red Dead 1 was a really, really, really great piece of single player DLC. At the time that really like set the bar for what single player DLC and single player expansions could be. So it's a little disappointing that they're not going to do like more of that. But I think, people get really heated about them not doing more single player DLC, and it's like, they put out this huge game. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a huge game. And it's this huge single player story and huge single player experience, and there's so much in that. And I think it's okay to be like, hey, this is what you're gonna get, and we're just gonna focus on online stuff now. I get people's like aggressions towards microtransactions, and I think some of the microtransactions in GTA Online and Red Dead Online are definitely very predatory and not too great. But I think it's fine to get to get such a great, and detailed and just fucking, all hands on deck kind of single player experience. I think it's okay to be like, we're not going to do single player DLC. You got what you got. And obviously we would love single player DLC. I would love some, like, Undead Nightmare 2 would be great. But I don't think it's like, reason to fucking pick up your pitchforks and shit, which people did for like GTA 5. People keep circulating this rumor that like Rockstar announced single player DLC for GTA 5 and that like they had all the voice recordings and shit. But I've never seen an actual source for that. I don't think Rockstar ever officially announced single player DLC for GTA 5, but people act like they did, and people act like they just like, reject, like rescinded on their promise for single player DLC when they never promised it to begin with. But yeah, I think I would like single player DLC in these games, but I think it's fine. It is what it is. And our final news item here, our final piece of news, and this is a big one. It's a big piece of news. Spider-Man is going to stay in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel is back, baby. Or Marvel, excuse me, Spider-Man. So, this summer, like a few months ago, this wasn't too long ago, actually. Sony and Marvel kind of announced that their partnership with having Spider-Man in the MCU had ended. Sony was going to do their own thing, probably put him in fucking Venom or some shit. But a couple days ago, they announced that a new deal has been reached. So originally, like, Disney has like basically everything else besides the film rights for Spider-Man. So even when Sony makes their own Spider-Man film, Disney still has the merchandising rights. So like any like t-shirt or any like action figures or thing that you buy, all of that money still goes to Disney. And then Sony just makes the money off of the actual film. And so, Disney was kind of like, because like Kevin Feige, or Kevin Feige, how the fuck you say his name? He was putting his creative people to work on Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home, which I have not seen yet. It's the only MCU movie that I haven't seen in theaters like since a long time. But at this point, I'm just waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray and stuff. But yeah, it seems like a new deal was reached. Originally, Disney wanted a 50-50 split for profits, and that was kind of rumored to be the reason why Sony walked away and said, no, we don't want that. We'll do our own thing with Spider-Man. It seems like a new deal was reached. Variety.com is reporting that Disney will receive about 25% of the profits, which is up from, I think, 5%. But yeah, that's good. I think MCU Spider-Man is good. It's not perfect, but I think it's definitely better than anything that Sony would do at this point by themselves. And like when I say Sony, like obviously Sony Film and like Sony PlayStation are technically the same company, but they're very different. It's not, they're very different from each other. But yeah, I don't think MCU's Spider-Man is perfect. I don't think they focus on, and again, I haven't seen Far From Home, but I don't think they focus enough on. My favorite aspect of Spider-Man is that it's a sacrifice. Being a good Spider-Man means being a bad Peter Parker, and vice versa. And I think the PS4 game like focuses on that in a very satisfying way. I love that aspect of Spider-Man. I love that, like, being a good Spider-Man means that like he's a fucking shitty ass boyfriend to MJ, because he's just always like putting himself in danger and doing shit. And it was one of the things that I really loved about the Sam Raimi movies, Spider-Man 2 specifically. I think Sam Raimi did a really good job of, because like Spider-Man 2 is more of a fucking character piece than it is a fucking Spider-Man movie. But it does a really good job of showcasing that sacrifice and what it means kind of to be Spider-Man. But I think the MCU Spider-Man is definitely fun. Tom Holland is definitely fun as Spider-Man. And Tom Holland had a very funny Instagram post in reaction to this news. And if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go check that out. It's very, very funny. But yeah, Spider-Man is coming back to the MCU. He wasn't gone for long. He was gone for like a couple minutes, but that's that. And then actually the final thing I have on here, I have talk about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles written down on my notepad here. I'm not sure who wrote this. I definitely didn't write this. It's not in my handwriting. But talk about Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Who wrote that? I wonder who wrote that. Can't talk about it now, unfortunately. I'll talk about Crystal Chronicles when it comes out in January, and I play it. So until then, no Crystal Chronicles talk, sadly. I'm sorry to whoever wrote that. I'm not sure who wrote that. It's very strange. But yeah, that's it. That's all the news items that I have for this podcast. Holy shit. We've been going for almost an hour. It's going to be our longest podcast yet. Wow. Wowie. So yeah, we're going to wrap up here. So thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Ooh, I can get like a little SMR in here. My God. I really have to fucking take a giant ass horse piss too. So we definitely need to wrap up this podcast. So yeah, if you're not following me on Twitter, my name is Michael Flanagan. You can follow me on Twitter at SuperHypeGaming. I try to tweet, just a variety of stuff. I got some comedy stuff on there. I tweet about my stream. I stream on Twitch at SuperHypeGaming as well. And we've got some exciting streams coming up. So for the entire month of October, I'm running an event called SuperHypeGaming. And I'm basically going to be playing spooky games for the entire month of October. And we're starting with, I posted my first kind of week schedule on Twitter. So it's all cycling around to each other. Twitter, Twitch. So yeah, that first week we're going to start October 1st, and I am going to be playing Man of Medan, which is a game. It's made by I always forget the name. It's either like Supermassive or Supergiants. Those are two different developers, and I always forget which one is which. Okay, so Supergiant is the developer that makes like Transistor and Bastion and stuff. So Man of Medan was made by Supermassive, which is it's the company that made Until Dawn, which is that like kind of like Telltale style, choose your dialogue, choose your adventure, like slasher flick, kind of style of game, and it was pretty good. It's definitely worth playing. So Man of Medan, I was looking at how long to beat, and it's like 4 hours long or something, which is, perfect. Like perfect length for that style of game. And it's like a bunch of teenagers on a boat or some shit, and it's a haunted boat. So that should be fun. So we're going to be playing that, and then once we're done with Man of Medan, we're going to be going over to Costume Quest 2, which is a game that I've wanted to play for several years. I've wanted to play this game, like several Halloweens in a row, and I just haven't got around to it. But we are going to stream that game. It's basically, it's made by Double Fine, and it's like a Halloween RPG where you're a bunch of kids and you're doing fucking Halloween RPG shit. So that'll be fun. And then once we finish that, so the plan is to play Man of Medan for like 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday, if we have to finish Man of Medan, we'll do that. And then we will start Costume Quest 2. Costume Quest 2 is also apparently pretty short. It's like 6 hours long. So we'll play that Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Saturday, if we wrap up early, I will play some Castlevania stuff. We'll play like Castlevania 1. There's the whole collection on PS4. We can play any of those games. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then some of the like Genesis Castlevania games I think are on there too. But yeah, that'll be exciting. Spooky Hype Gaming. That's gonna be an ongoing event for all of October. So follow my Twitter account. You can get some info on what I'm going to be streaming. Let's see. Is there anything else? Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? I always feel like I'm forgetting stuff at the end of the podcast. So I need to start writing down like a list. I write down the list of like all the news items to talk about, but I need to start writing down a list of like how to end the podcast, because this happens every week where I'm like, okay, did I talk about everything? I need a rhythm. I need like a script that I can run through for the end of the podcast. But I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys come by for some spooky hype gaming, and I hope you guys buy some Jupiter Jacks, please. I'm not kidding. We have like 3 warehouses full of Jupiter Jacks, so please buy some while they're at this discounted rate. So yeah, that's it for episode 3 of the Super Hype Gaming podcast. Until next time.
Are you one of the millions that are guilty of driving while talking on your cell phone? Hi, Billy Mays here for the Jupiter Jack, the most convenient hands-free device for any cell phone, guaranteed. Watch this. All you do is plug it into any phone and mount it on the dash. Preset your radio to 88.7 FM and you're ready to go. Jupiter Jack transmits quality sound through the speakers in your car. Instead of hearing music, you hear the other person. If you want more volume, just turn up your radio. No plugs, no wires, no hands. Hi, it's Billy.
Hey, Billy, it's Carla. I need you over at the studio for a production meeting.
No problem, Carla. Be there in 20 minutes. See ya.
Okay.
In my car, the Jupiter Jack is the only system I use because I can safely talk and drive at the same time. It's compact and portable and works with any phone in any car. Jupiter Jack transmits your conversation through the speakers of your car. Instead of hearing music, you hear the other person. Using a cell phone and driving isn't safe, and in some states, it's even illegal.
It's so easy. I just plug it into my phone and start talking, and I feel so much safer because I don't have to hold my phone while I drive.
You can spend up to $100 on a complicated Bluetooth system. But call now and get the hands-free portable Jupiter Jack system for just $10. That's right, just $10. But I'm still not done. Order right now and we'll send you a second Jupiter Jack system for a second car, friend, or a family member. Just pay separate shipping and handling. So do the right thing. Be safe and not sorry. And get 2 Jupiter Jacks for just $10. Here's how to order.
Have your credit card ready and call 1-800-705-0156. But call now. We're giving away a bonus second Jupiter Jack with all of today's orders. But you've got to call now. 1-800-705-0156. That's 1-800-705-0156. Call 1-800-705-0156 now.